Hello again, my dudes. This is Kadimo with another Dragons Dogma 2 build video, this time for the Magic Archer, one of my personal favorites, besides, of course, the Thief and the Warfarer, but that's gonna be my last build video because I'm gonna make something very special out of that one. But when it comes to the Magic Archer, guys, it's a very strong magic-based build. Mostly you're going to be playing at range, although you'll be comfortable enough to be around enemies as long as you know how to use your bow, your magic bow properly. But when it comes to the magic archer, where it does shine, it's in the fact that you'll be able to aim at weak spots of the targets and use different ways to do damage to them using the skills that I'm going to show you, which in my opinion are the best ones to use as a magic archer. Now, first things first, let's talk about gear. I'm using, of course, the Grian Mahar, which is the best magic bow you can get in the game from the end game Dragonforge vendor. If you have made it to New Game Plus, then this will be accessible to you at the guy as well. Now, at level 95, which is 95 or 96, which is what I'm currently at, this bow, as soon as it's fully upgraded, and if you upgrade it correctly, it will give you a magic of damage of 1022. When I say if you upgrade it correctly, is you have to make sure you upgrade this bow with the Elvish people, because the Elvish people will upgrade weapons mostly when it comes to their magic damage, so that you want to make sure you use them to upgrade this bow. So when it comes to my armor, yes, I know I look pretty awesome, except for those things hanging out of my arms, which I gotta say I don't really like them. I wish they weren't there. The armor would look much cooler without those wrapping things hanging around my arms. But when it comes to the helmet, this is also an end game helmet, one that you need to find in the end game section, in the unmoored world. It cannot be bought, and it's the Ancient Gallia. Absolutely amazing for the Magic Archer, defense 417, magic defense 484. Also with a lot of elemental resistance and debilitation resistance. It's a sweet piece of gear. For the chest, I'm using the Resonance Armor. Again, for the Magic Archer, defense 486, magic defense 565. Again, with a lot of elemental resistances and debilitation resistances, which is perfect. When it comes for the leg armor, I'm using the Strider's Greaves. This is suitable for both the Magic Spearhand and the Magic Archer. Defense at 407, magic defense 471. Again, debilitation resistance only of 5%, but they all add up, so it's a good thing to have these combined. And again, the champion mantle for my cloak, which is my absolute favorite. I think it looks absolutely badass. For the rings, I'm using Ring of Triumph as usual. All my builds use this because it's a all-around good ring to have. And the Ring of Vehemence. Again, the ringer wearer's attacks are more likely to stagger and knock down foes. When you're using the Magic Archer, because you are constantly aiming at their weak spots, and this can easily be done with the manual aiming instead of the quick shot, which I never use to be honest, you'll be easily getting foes staggered or knocked down if you aim at their weak spots. Now when it comes to the status, I've got 293 defense, of course, defense nearly at 800, magic 1022, magic defense 874. Knockdown power is 538, and knockdown resistance 117. As you can see on the right screen as well, I got quite a lot of resistances. My health is at 2010 and stamina almost at 1500. Again, when you use this build, things that I suggest is that in your party, as you can see then down there on my left bottom corner, have a mage and have a fighter to draw the enemy's attentions, the mage to keep you healed, and go for a thief a sorcerer, whatever you prefer. I like to have a thief because they steal things from your enemies. It's always useful. Now, when it comes to the skills, let's check out the vocation guy so you can
Any
have an
business with the
idea
guild,
of
sir?
what
I
I
should be
am
glad to.
using. So when it comes to the skills, I'm using my favorite skills, absolutely. Ricochet Hunter. Now, you might say that this skill is not very useful if you are in an open space, which I agree. I couldn't agree more. It's absolutely useless if you are outside exploring the world. This is not going to do you any good. But if you are going to explore caverns, you must have this as a magic archer. Because I'm going to give you an example that I don't even need to see the enemies. I just shoot the arrow down the tunnel and it just kills everything. And just to be sure, I shoot another one, and everything dies before me or the pawns even get remotely close to the enemies. This is an absolute shredder of a skill. It makes the cave looks like a nightclub. I know, it's a bit funny, but it's extremely powerful. For my second skill, Blaze Fang Arrow. This is what I call a homing missile. Basically, it allows you to cast an arrow, a magic arrow of fire, which you can manually control. And this is absolutely powerful because it doesn't actually tell you, but the distance between you and how far this thing can go, it's actually pretty amazing. And not only that, the explosion is massive. It's quite an AoE um, spell to use. So not only it allows you to aim at a distance without even having to see the target, as it shows in the example. The targets are behind this little hill, and he can still aim at them and destroy them. If you do it correctly, you can destroy hordes of enemies in a single shot. Also, this does fire damage and will set enemies on fire, so it also helps having elemental damage adding to your arsenal, so you can do increased damage to your enemies. My third choice is the Sagittate Avalanche. Now, this is the bread and butter when it comes to shooting weak points on the enemies. Again, you want to use the manual aiming. You want to use, like in the example, aim at the heads of Cyclops, aim at the hearts of dragons, um, aim at the goat heads of chimeras, or the lion heads, or the snake heads. You want to make sure you are aiming at the weak spots. Not only this is going to do increased damage by allowing you to land an extreme amount of hits in one single shot to the weak spot, which will increase the stagger and the knockdown, it also does a tremendous amount of damage on its own. If you were lucky enough to play with a sorcerer, which uses the spell that allows the flare that allows to highlight a weak spot, and then you aim at it and everything explodes. Those two combined are an absolute destroyer of enemies, especially when it comes to bosses. They just destroy everything. Last but not least, Marty's Bolt. Now, if you aren't familiar with what this does, this basically is the suicidal arrow. It will consume your HP for as long as you keep hold of the button, and in doing so, it will charge the massive arrow effect that you see on the screen in the example. Now, this is all nice and good, but the HP that you will lose cannot be recovered by normal means, normal heals. You'll have to either rest, or you'll have to use the Aethyl potions, which will heal all of your HP, including that which is already missing and cannot be recovered by normal heals. It's a very powerful spell, true, but you have to be careful when you use it and how often you use it. I don't even use it that much, to be honest. It's just that in case I'm in a tight spot and I'm surrounded by too many enemies, or a dragon is giving me too much work to do, I go for the Marty's Bolt. Game over, I win. When it comes to the core skills, you get the climatic area, which increases the armor inflicted with pinpoint volley if loose the instant the bow is fully drawn, which I tend to do. I tend to release it as soon as it's fully charged. You got the scopic sight, which extends the lock-on range when using pinpoint volley. So this is what allows us to shoot from really far away uh, using the Sagittarius Avalanche. The tracker sight, which increases the maximum number of lock-on targets when using pinpoint volley and rivet shots. So this will give you more targets. Even if it's just one target, more bolts will come out of your bow, which is great. And the protracting arrow, which after the user employs a fire, ice, or lightning weapon skill, the element is conferred to the arrows loosened with quick fire, pinpoint, volley, and rivet. So if you use your fire, like I do with a blaze fang arrow, the next arrow will go with fire on it without me having to do anything. But just to make sure I always have fire available, I have my Gandalf with fire affinity, the Celestial Painage, so I have a tremendous amount of stamina all the time, and the Argent Succor for the heals, and the High Alidon as well. Now, when it comes to augments, I'm using my personal favorites. You can always change this around to what you prefer. I'm using lethality, increased damage dealt when striking a target's vitals, because especially with the manually aiming at weak spots, this will do a tremendous amount of damage, and you will see it for yourselves. The damage that we do, it's absolutely insane. Exaltation, which augments stamina recovery speed. Dominance, which augments my knockdown power, which will help me stagger and knock down targets. Zeal, which reduces the stamina consumed when performing weapon skills. The less stamina you consume, the more times you can use that skill. And combined with the exaltation, you will recover your stamina even faster. So these two together, very powerful mechanic. Catalysis, which increase damage dealt when exploiting a hostile target elemental weakness. So because I use the fire and a lot of enemies are weak to fire, I will automatically do increased damage just because I'm exploiting that weakness. And last but not least, sagacity, it augments your magic. It doesn't do a big increase, but again, I wanted to have more than 1,000 magic damage, and that's what I went for with that core skill. Now, one more thing I suggest is, if you can, when playing, make sure that you use your pawn commands. So when you press go, your fighter will go first, and that will give you some reassurances that you'll be in the back doing damage without being targeted too much. Of course, because you will be doing too much damage, you will be targeted sometimes. You can easily change that by using the ring that allows you not to be targeted, or using the augment that does the same. It's entirely up to you. I rather just send the pawns, wait in the back, do my skills, job done, move around a little bit and adapt to the situation. Now, one more thing to do is, of course, showing you some examples of how to use this build. So there's no better example to start with than actually going for a big dragon. Keep in mind that, unfortunately, the dragon was really not that interested in attacking me, so I had to try to tease him and get to come to me. He was taking his time. Again, you can see how fast using rivet shot is actually compared to pinpoint shot. Um, Pinpoint is more accurate, but rivet will fill all the targets much faster. So it is entirely up to you. You can go for more accuracy or faster bow usage, if you want to call it that way. I'd rather go with speed, to be honest. In terms of damage, there's no damage difference, so it's entirely up to you. You will probably do more damage with pinpoint, ever so slightly, because you will be able to aim more. Now, as you just saw, I used the Blaze Fang arrow, which, again, I understand that being fire, it's not that useful against dragons, but I just wanted to do some damage and try to get to aim at his heart while he was in a funny and awkward position. Again, you want to try to play from a distance. My Khal Drogo was not very interested, despite the fact that I told him to go twice already. I don't know whose pawn that is, but your pawn is not very good. He needs a lot of insisting. As you can see, I am aiming at the heart for maximum damage, and every time all the arrows hit, you can see the damage that it actually does. Just look at this.
This is a normal shot. Now comes the ultimate, which unfortunately it was a bit too late. There was no need to use it, but you can see the devastation of this build. Now, this is actually my favorite example in the video because it demonstrates how powerful this build is. So you got the smaller enemies in this area, which you can easily dispatch with just releasing rivet normal shots. They all die one shot if you get all the hits to connect. Now you see that little golem there. This is how Sagittate Avalanche is powerful. 1, 2, and that's it. He's dead. 2 shots of Avalanche and that Cyclops is dead. GG. Now, the reason for the ricochet arrow is this. Everybody remembers this cave, correct? This is Stormwind Cave. Everybody has to come in here at least once because it's story related. If you remember, this cave correctly is full of lizards. And lizards can be a little tough to kill because of their hive being so thick. Well, the ricochet hunter arrow doesn't really care about that. It just wants every cave to turn into a nightclub. And that's what it does. The cave becomes a nightclub of sorts, and everything that is inside this said nightclub just so happens to die without you even having to see them. You don't have to see your enemies. You can see I don't have any enemies in front of me. They are very far away, but the damage that this thing does, especially in the tight areas of caverns, is just insane. As you can see again, I'm shooting, I see no enemies, but you can see the HP bars melting completely, despite them being extremely far away. That one actually survived, but now him and his friends are all dead. You guys can see it for yourselves. This arrow is an absolute must-have as a magic archer, especially if you're going for some cave exploration. You see, I wanted to make sure everybody is dead, so I actually got up this little edge and I saw, oh, there's one alive. Okay, not anymore. I don't even need to aim at the enemies, guys. I just shoot it and the arrow does its own thing. Now, just to finish the cavern example, this is where you finally get the God's Blade. And again, how far I am and how wide that side of the cavern actually is, that area is very wide and it still gets the job done. This arrow is not to be messed with. It's an absolute must-have as a magic archer. I strongly recommend it. Now, a very short example of how the augments make the difference when it comes to exploring a target's weakness. Now, this wolf is weak to fire. I use fire and he's dead. And you guys know those have a tough hide as well. Now, another perfect example of how useful the homing missile is. I could have aimed at the guy on the top, but I would have only killed him. By aiming at the guy below, I killed all 3 in one go with the explosion. They were all dead. Now, if you are familiar with the Unmoored World, just out of Backbathal, there is this necromancer guy. So as you can see, I don't even need to see him. I'm behind the little cliff aiming at him, and I've got some fire damage going on already. Because of that, the following arrows were fire as well. But nothing like the Sagittate Avalanche to bring this guy down. Unfortunately, he keeps interrupting me, but you can see the damage. It's absolutely crazy. You just melt bars of HP with ease. He's gonna actually get knocked down very soon because the damage output is absolutely amazing, and because we have a lot of knockdown power considering we are magic archers. And just to finish the job, Martyr's Bolt, and that's pretty much the end. He is now down, and all you have to do is finish him off. He is dead. GG. Thank you guys for watching. I truly appreciate you taking the time and supporting the channel. Please consider subscribing if you're new. Leave your thoughts and comments and suggestions down below. I'll see you in the next one. Cheerio!